Hi there, it's Carol with Carolbcrafts. Today we'll be making this adorable Thanksgiving card. It says thankful, golden leaves, chilly air, autumn beauty everywhere. Now this is project number 1 in my Autumn Goodness class Create Kit, and it is available through November 4th. So jump on over to my website www.carolbcrafts.com so that you can find out how you can get this Create Kit as a gift from me with the qualifying purchase when you use my current host code. Now this is a little detailed, but it's not difficult. I think you'll enjoy making it. Just follow along the instructions. I do have to tell you that I originally made this card in Bermuda Bay, but later decided that I would use our new color, which is an in color for this year, is Just Jade, and that's the color of the ribbon as well. So the card we make will look a little bit different in color, but it's the same design and everything. So if you don't have the kit, I'll give the supplies and dimensions as we go along so that you can make this adorable little Thanksgiving card along with us. So the cardstock you're going to need is that Just Jade. You can see it's just a little bit more green than the Bermuda Bay, but it's going to work for us. And then we're going to need some soft suede, which is the lighter color brown. You have left in here mint macaron and cinnamon cider, I believe is that color. You will need one of your 8.5 by 5.5 thick, very vanilla pieces. Now some of them I have scored in the center and some I have not. So if you got one that is not scored at 4.25, we'll just go ahead and do that together. Looks like the DSP you need are the ones with the acorn and leaves. And I believe that's it. From your home stash, you're going to need Very Vanilla, Whisper White, and you're going to need a piece of scratch paper. So that's our cardstock and paper. Go ahead and pull out my card base here. Now for the other, from your goodie bag, which is what I call this, you're going to need your piece of early espresso, which is 2 inches by 5.25, 2 inches by 5.25, and I have embossed this with, what did I use? Let me see. Okay, I embossed it with the Tasteful Textures folder, embossing folder. But if you have a similar embossing folder, you can use that. But that's 2 by 5.25 early espresso. And then I have some ribbon, some gingham ribbon, the Just Jade color, 7-inch and 8-inch, and it's from the Every Season ribbon combo. It comes in a combo pack, so it's not by itself in the. Okay, and then I think that's it from our goodie bag. Oh no, it's not. It's not. You're going to need these. I give you 2, you only need 1. These are die cut from the smallest oval in the Stitched Shapes dies, and I'll show you those. These are our Stitched Shapes dies. They're circles. They come as a set. They're oval, circle, and square, and they have a little stitching around it. And this is the smallest one, which is not in the set right now because it's over by my die cutting machine. But that's the smallest one. This is a nice set you might want to consider getting. So I believe that's all that we're going to need from our goodie bag. And then so here's that folder, Tasteful Textures folder. So the Autumn Goodness stamps are what we're going to be using. And these are the dies that go with it. This is an awesome little set here. I love the little fence. That's kind of what sold me, was that picket fence. So you'll need this bundle, the Autumn Goodness bundle, and then you'll also need your layering ovals, which is a set of plain ovals and then scalloped ovals. This is a nice set to have on hand too. So those are the two things that you'll need as far as stamps and dies. Your inks, you're going to want to grab your Cajun Craze, Cinnamon Cider, which is a lovely fall color, Soft Suede, Gray Granite, and Tuxedo Black, Memento Tuxedo Black. Now if you don't have Gray Granite, that's for it gives us those grains in the wood there. You could use something like Sahara Sand maybe, or even, I don't know, any kind of light grayish, lightish brown color you could use if you don't have the Gray Granite. Okay, so that's our inks. And then for your coloring, for your flowers, you're going to want to have Just Jade Stampin' Blends, light and dark. You're going to want to have Cajun Craze, light and dark. Stampin' Blends, you're going to want to have, this is light Cinnamon Cider. And then to color the little wheelbarrow, you'll want light and dark Crumb Cake. And then for the inside, you're going to want to have dark Daffodil Delight. And then you're also going to want to have a Wink of Stella brush to give some sparkle to your flowers. Okay, I think we've covered everything you're going to need. So I'll clear this away and we'll get started on making our card. And like I said, it's a little more detailed, but definitely not too difficult. The dies do all the work for you. So my thick Berry Vanilla card base has been scored, but I'm just going to show you what you would need to do just in case you got one that hadn't been scored. You're going to put it horizontal or landscape and find your smaller ball here, the smaller end. You could use the bigger one, but the smaller one's better. You're going to find 4 1/4, and then you're just going to come down like that. Now if you have a scoring tool on your cutter, then you could use that as well. Just need to score it at 4 1/4. And I'm going to fold that away from me and get my bone folder out and crease that fold. That card base is all ready now for us to build on. But I'll put it over there till we're done with our stamping. So we're going to do some cutting now. And I'm right-handed, so I'm going to put it here. Let's see. First of all, we're going to need, we're going to need Berry Vanilla cardstock. And I like to cut it at 5.5 to start out with, because I think that gives me some leftovers that I can work with. Make sure it is 5.5. So our first piece is going to be 4 7/8 by 3 5/8. So I'm going to turn this at 3 5/8, and that would be right there. So I got my 3 5/8, and now I'm going to make it 4 7/8, just shy of 5. Okay, and that is, I believe, for the inside sentiment. Let me check. Yep, that's for our inside sentiment. 3 5/8 by 4 7/8. Now, this, let's cut our 4 1/4 by 5.5. So we know that this is 5.5. So we'll cut 4 1/4. Got a little bit left over there, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 is for our flowers and our sentiment. We'll be die cutting those. We'll be stamping on them and die cutting them. And that's all we need for Very Vanilla. So I'll put my leftovers away because we'll use this in other projects. And now we're going to need 5 1/2 by 2. So I'm going to go ahead and do 5 1/2 again on this one. And then 2, we'll be die cutting our fence, stamping and die cutting our fence out of that. So 5 1/2 by 2, Whisper White. Put that in my stamp and die cut pile. Okay, so we have our Just Jade, which is a beautiful color. We're going to go ahead and cut that at 5 1/2. Right here, right down the middle. And then the first piece we need is going to be 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. So we'll turn it and we'll do 4 1/8. And then we'll do our 5 3/8 this way. So we have 4 1/8, 5 3/8, and that's going to go on our front. And it will be behind our DSP, which we need to cut. The DSP is going to be 4 by 5 1/4. So let's just go ahead and cut that 5 1/4 this way, and it should fit right on top of that Just Jade that we just cut. Okay, so this is going to go over here. Eventually we'll put that over there on top with some ribbon. And that'll go on top of our card base like that, which will be nice. Okay, so what else do we need? We need an inside piece of Just Jade, and it's going to be 5 by 3 3/4. So let's go ahead and get our 3 3/4 here. Whoops, it moved. 3 3/4. And then we need 5. So 3 3/4 and 5, and then our DSP, our Very Vanilla inside, is going on top of that. We'll stamp our sentiment. Now the sentiment I chose was the Golden Leaves, Chilly Air, Autumn Beauty Everywhere. But you could choose something else if you wanted, if you didn't want to use that. Maybe you have another stamp set that you like. So we're going to be stamping on this. We'll grab our other Very Vanilla. We'll be stamping on that. We'll be stamping on that, our Whisper White. What else? It looks like we will need some Just Jade to die cut the little scallop oval there. That's the smallest scallop oval in the layering ovals dies. Let's see. What size do we need here? We need 1 1/2 inch by 2 3/4. Not a very big one. So let's just do our 1 1/2 right here. And 2 3/4 right here. And then we have these left over for other projects that you might want to do. So that's for die cutting. And I think we are done with our cutting. So I had said we were going to be stamping on this, but actually we will not be stamping, but we will be inking it. So let's set our Whisper White aside. For stamping, we are going to stamp the inside sentiment, and we're going to stamp the, I guess that is like some wheat or something that's been, hay or wheat that's been bundled up for the fall. So to stamp that, and then this is the piece that we want. The smaller of the Very Vanilla is the one for the inside. It is again 5 4 7/8 by 3 5/8, and it's a horizontal card. So what I like to do is use a piece of plastic. This is window sheet, but if you don't have window sheet, you can use a piece of plastic from your photopolymer stamps. The stamps actually come on a piece of thicker plastic. You could always use that if you want. And so I have my plastic here. I probably should have gotten a newer one of these little grid papers. So I'll grab one of these clean sheets of grid paper. It won't be confusing then to have the printed inked stuff on the bottom there distracting us. So I want to get my Golden Leaves, Chilly Air, Autumn Beauty Everywhere stamp out. And I love photopolymer stamps. I'm going to put it here in the bottom left corner, and I'll pick it up. Make sure that's back in the corner there, because that photopolymer likes to pull my plastic out of place. This is going to be stamped with Cajun Craze. It's a beautiful fallish color. Ink up our stamp. Let me put something underneath there. Get my ribbon out of the way. I do not want my ribbon to get ink on it. So this is just going to let me know where this is going to stamp, so that I can line this up perfectly. So make sure I get the smaller one, not the bigger one. This is going to go in the top left corner, and you're just going to position it where it's level. And then you're going to put one of your magnets there, and then remove your plastic. Try not to get ink on anything. I'm going to ink up my stamp again and stamp on my cardstock. And I like my stamps to be nice and rich. That's one of the reasons I use the Stamparatus. You can stamp again to get a nice rich look to your ink. Alright, so make sure that snaps, and because sometimes you can close it and it's not closed. There's still a little bit of a crease there, so make sure it snaps really good. So I'm going to clean my Cajun Craze ink off. And I'm also going to clean off my plastic. And I have a piece of microfiber cloth that I got with some of my glasses when I bought glasses. So I'm using that to dry off my plastic. Okay, next we're going to stamp our bundle of wheat or whatever that is, and we don't really need to use the plastic for that. We can just put that here in the corner, kind of like that. And I think I told you we were going to stamp that with cinnamon cider, but we're actually going to use crumb cake. It's going to be crumb cake, and I didn't tell you that at the beginning, and I'm not even sure if I put that in the list. You can use another color similar if you don't have crumb cake. I really do apologize. But there we go. So we have our crumb cake, and I'm going to clean off my stamp. And we'll be coloring the leaves on this as well. So we'll set that aside for coloring. Next, we're going to stamp the Thankful and the flowers. So let's get our flower stamp out. And that's this one here. I guess we'll be stamping our thankful on our little oval that I included in your set, your kit. So I'm just gonna, there's plenty of room there. I guess we just didn't need all of that, did we? But anyway, we've got it if we need it. Put that down to stay. And then this is gonna get stamped with Memento Tuxedo Black ink. Now I don't want that to be really, really dark, so I'm going to get a piece of scratch paper. I can just use that from before. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp on that and then stamp again with, so it's not going to be full strength, because I don't want it to be really full strength, because full strength is going to be too dark. So I'm going to ink that up really well, especially in the center. Sometimes it helps to rub it and then dab it. Make sure you've got ink everywhere really good. So I'm going to stamp on my, lightly on my scrap paper, and then I'm going to stamp the image so that it's just a light outline for me to color. And that maybe a little bit more. That didn't take, so there we go. So that way it's not like too bright. So I'll clean that stamp off. And we'll be coloring that. You can stamp another one just in case you have a mess up with your coloring. I always usually do two. And then lastly, we're going to be stamping on our little ovals. I'm going to put a piece of some, on the back, I'm going to put just a little bit of the Stampin' Seal and put that there. Now get my plastic back out, and I'm going to stamp Thankful on my plastic. And I'm going to do it kind of like right here in the center. Thankful. That's going to be in Cajun Craze. So I'll go ahead and do this. Slide this underneath the plastic and line it up where I want it to stamp in the center. Make sure it's perfectly in the center. That looks good. So I'll put magnet there, remove the plastic. Go ahead and put a magnet there too to hold that down. I'm going to lightly ink that up. And just lightly again. And there's my Thankful. Now I did give you two. Let me do that T a little bit. There, I did give you two. So if you have problems, you can always use that second one. Otherwise, you can use it in another project. Clean off my stamp. Okay, and I don't, we did not cut our soft suede, did we? Okay, I'll also clean up my Thankful off my plastic here. We did not cut our soft suede. Oh, it's actually crumb cake. It's our crumb cake that we need to cut. So I'll put this aside for later. First we have to cut it and then stamp it. So here's our crumb cake. I'm sorry I missed that. We need 4 1/4 by 3 1/2. So I'm just gonna bring this in here quickly. Do my 5 1/2, and then 4 1/4. 4 1/4 by 3 1/2. Okay, these we can put away for another project. 4 1/4 by 3 1/2. We'll be stamping our wheelbarrow and our wheel on this. This is our wheelbarrow. Actually, all right, we're going to stamp the wheelbarrow and the wheel. And then we're going to die cut it. So let's stamp it this way. So we have plenty of room for our wheelbarrow. So we'll be die cutting around that, and then let's put our wheel in this corner here, but for now let's just do our wheelbarrow. That's going to be in soft suede. So we'll get out our soft suede. Ink that up really good and stamp that down. Awesome, awesome. And like that. So I will go ahead and do my wheel now. And I'm gonna, since that moved a little bit, I'm gonna go ahead and clean off my wheelbarrow, get it off there, because I don't want to double stamp my wheelbarrow. I thought I could be tricky, but no, it's not gonna work. Can't be tricky. All right, so now I'm going to ink up my wheel with soft suede and stamp it. Okay, we've got that done. Clean that off. And that's ready to die cut. So I think that is all of our stamping. I'm pretty sure that we got it all. Yeah. And so we can put our stamparatus away. So now we are ready to do some coloring, and we'll get out our Stampin' blends. We have Light and Dark Just Jade, Light and Dark Crumb Cake for our little wheelbarrow. We have Light and Dark Cajun Craze, Cinnamon, I think that's light cinnamon cider, and dark daffodil delight, and then we have our Winkastella, clear Winkastella. So let's start with this. We're going to do the dark crumb cake on the bottom part here. This part here, this bottom part. Is this crumb cake? Yep, it is. It's really dark. I don't know why it is so dark. Hopefully it's going to lighten up a little bit. I think it will. It looks really dark right now, but I think it will lighten up as it dries. And we'll just do this one thing here. Be a little more careful with this part because it's thinner. I'm using my brush tip too. Okay, yeah, it's lightening up as it dries. Thank goodness. For a moment I thought, oh my goodness, did I use the wrong color? Then this little circle here, we're going to color it. It's like a little axle or something. Then this part down here, we're going to color. Yeah, it's going on really, really dark, but it's going to lighten up as it dries. You'll see. And it will be just fine. Trying to be real careful here so I don't go outside the lines. Okay, so that's what we have for our dark crumb cake. Now for a light crumb cake, we're going to do everything else. So we'll go ahead and do this part here. This doesn't go on quite so dark, thank goodness. Do that part of the axle. And then we're going to do this part of the wheelbarrow. I'm just going to go around. I'm not going to worry about shadowing, trying to shadow and make it look fancy. If you know how to do that, feel free. But I'm not. I think the stamp that we used helps with the shadowing, so we don't have to worry so much about that. Okie dokie, we're making progress here. Coloring this wheelbarrow. And then this wheel, we're going to find it easier to color one side and then turn and color the other side of this wheel. So now I'm going to color the other side of the wheel. Just easier for me to control my ink if I am looking straight at it. And then I'll do the insides here. This is a really cute stamp set and die set. So we're done with that, and that's going to dry. It'll look a lot lighter once it's dried. Now we're going to do our, let's do our flowers first. So you can decide how you want to do it. I'm going to use a very little of the dark Cajun Craze, and I'm just going to go on the inside here, wherever the base of the petals would be. And these two petals here on the edge, they're going to be light cinnamon cider, so I'm not going to do those. I'm going to color the inside of that. I think I'll color the insides. So that's all I'm going to do with the dark. I think I'll go ahead and color the light cinnamon cider one so you can see. Which ones I'm talking about, so you don't get confused. This is such a pretty autumn color. Okay, those are the two that are light cinnamon cider. Okay, now back to our light Cajun Craze. And I'm going to use my brush tip for this. And I'm just going to fill in here. I'm not even going to try to blend. I think it will blend naturally as it dries. And I'm not trying to go too heavy on with the light Cajun Craze because I want it to dry light. I want it to be a lighter color when it dries. So I'm not getting too much of it on there. And it is kind of hard to tell where the flower begins and the leaves end, or vice versa. Trying to go a little lighter this time. I think I went a little too heavy on this one, and the detail of the flowers got lost. So I'm trying to go really light this time with my light Cajun Craze. And maybe fill in where I've missed. There might be some spaces where I've missed. I can fill in. And I see one right there. Okay, so now I'm going to do dark Just Jade. These larger leaves right here in the front. Whoops, gonna get my brush tip. These larger leaves are gonna be dark Just Jade. And what else is Just Jade? There's something here and I don't even know what it is. A couple of odd shaped leaves right there. That's going to be Just Jade. And I think everything else is going to be light Just Jade. I don't know. Maybe for variety's sake I will do some of these in dark Just Jade just to give it a little variety there. I have to use the very tip of my my Stampin' blend. Okay, now I'm going to use, everything else is going to be light Just Jade. I'm just going to color all the other leaves with light Just Jade. And you're going to probably, like me, find it hard to stay within this small leaves. You just have to take your time and use the very tip of your Stampin' blend. And some of it you may just do like little dots. Don't even try to color it. As long as it's not too terrible, it'll look more like a watercolor than a mess up. So that's ready to die cut. this is ready to die cut. Now let's do our inside. We've got our bundle of whatever that is. I'm going to do with my brush tip for the dark Daffodil Delight. And my brush tip is really dog-eared. I'm not even sure what happened to it, but so it's going to be a little bit harder. I'm going to try to get a point there. And I need to order another one. I have no idea what I did to this poor thing to make it that way. So I'm doing the leaves up here at the top. And like I said, these smaller ones, you may just want to touch it with your ink tip. Not even try to color it, just touch it. And then I'm going to bring this down and color my stack of sticks here. This is so much autumn feel. It's so nice for the autumn season. Okay, so we have our stack of whatever wheat, and let that dry. So let's do our die cutting. Where is our thankful? Where did our thankful go? Because our thankful is die cut, so that's already, so we don't have to worry about that. Don't have to die cut this. We will be not stamping, but we'll be inking this. So let's go ahead and get our dies out for our flowers. That's this one here. It has kind of a little up at the top there. Just going to line that up. Try to line it up so that everything, you can see everything. There's a little flower stem up there, or bud. And when I'm going to use some removable Scotch tape, and that's ready to run through the big I was going to say Big Shot. The new Stampin' Cut and Emboss. Here's the die for our awesome little wheelbarrow. And we used to sell the Stampin', the Big Shot, but now we have our own machine, which is awesome. This we're just going to cut with the circle. So just line that circle up and put something there. That needs a little bit more, I think, to hold that in place. We're also going to cut with our smallest scalloped oval. One of the Just Jade's smallest scalloped oval. It's going to go behind here like that. So we'll go ahead and cut that. I don't need to tape that because that's not got a printed image behind it. So let me bring in my awesome Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Make sure it's in camera. It's really, it is really close, isn't it? All right, so we've got plate number 1 right here. Then plate number 2, we have a number 3 plate. We'll go ahead and put our die cutting items in here that we're going to die cut. As long as they all fit on that bottom clear plastic plate, we can cut them all at one time. And I put another plate 3 on top, and then we're going to run it through just like this. And it shakes my table. That's okay. Alright, so that's, put this away over here. This is what we have now. We've got our little wheel. We've got our, put this over here. We've got our flowers. And we've got our little scalloped oval. And what happened to my thanks? Thankful got away from me. Okay, so that's going to go on there. That's so pretty. So we'll put those up there because what we're going to do next is going to be a little bit messy. This piece of Whisper White, which is 2 by 5.5, this is where we need our scratch paper. Now you can do this differently if you want. This is how I do it. We're going to get our awesome fence pattern here, like this. There isn't a stamp for this, and I did want to have the grain in the wood. I wanted it inked. So what I did is I got my soft suede, not soft suede, your gray granite, or you could use any light colored ink that you want. Now you could use a sponge dauber and sponge this if that's what you want to do, but I'm lazy, so I'm just going to take this. I guess I'm just going to take it and dab it on here like this and squish it down on there. And what that's going to do is put ink on my die, my gray granite. And if you get your fingers inky, be sure to wipe them off. You don't want to get ink on anything else. Okay, and then dry your hands off. So now we're just going to pick this up and on the edges as easily as you can, and put it face down there. And I'm to keep it from moving around, I'm going to put some tape on it. We're done with our scratch paper. Again, make sure your hands are not inky. Bring in our machine again. Our awesome Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. We're going to use the same sandwich. 1, 2, 3, and I always use the same number 3 because it gets all cut up, and then I use the same number 3 on top so that it doesn't get as cut up. And then I switch when this one gets all cut up and I can't use it anymore, then I put this one on the bottom and put a fresh one on top, if that makes sense. I just kind of rotate them that way. So we're going to put this in our face down like that, and then we're going to do another 3. We're going to run this through, and that cracking is normal. Don't let it worry you. That means it's working, it's doing its job. And the only time you need to worry is when it won't go through. Then you know something's wrong. Your sandwich isn't quite right, but the cracking is fine. And then let's look at the magic here. Let's poke out all these little things we don't need. It looks like I'm going to need to get my, take your pick tool where there's little circles, That's where those little holes, you want to push through there, and that will help you to get this out. And look at what we have. Is that not awesome? That's just awesome. Now you'll want to clean off the ink off of your die. You'll want to clean it with, I've got like a hand and face wipe, and then I'm going to actually dry it off. Don't want to leave it wet with my microfiber cloth. I'm going to dry it off as well as I can, and I'll just leave that out to dry. Okay, I think that's all of our die cutting. Now let's put our card together. So we have this here for the inside, and we didn't do our Wink of Stella yet, but I think we'll get to that before we're done. And let's see, so that goes on top of there. We can start building our card, and I'm going to use my Stampin' seal. This is going to go on the front here of our larger piece of Just Jade. I'll put a little in the center. I think I like this side better. So just a 1/16 of an inch all around. Okay, and we're not going to put it on the front yet because we've got some ribbon to put on. Now, this is not exactly in the center. It is actually 3/4 of an inch from the bottom. So you can kind of eyeball it. If you have 3 squares there, that's 3/4 of an inch. And I think I'm going to put that on with some glue, because glue will give me a chance to move things around. So I'm going to put a little dot of glue in each corner, not enough to ooze on me, just enough to I do want to get close to the edge, but not too close. Now remember, 3/4 of an inch, and this will help me to know, 1, if it's even, and 2, if it's at the right height. Okay, so that looks good. So I've got my 3/4 here, my 3/4 there, and it's even across like that. I did get some glue on my fingers, so I'm going to wipe that off. Now I do have 2 pieces of ribbon. I have a 8 and a 7. The 7-inch is going to go around the top like this, and you decide which side looks best. It's going to be about 1/8 of an inch from the top of the early espresso. Now I don't know if I think I told you about the early espresso earlier. So on the back, I'm going to put some of my Stampin' seal, a couple of strips of that, where I know that, and this one's a little bit too high, where I know that ribbon is going to come around the corner and dig into that. Both sides are so pretty, it's hard to know. I think this is the prettier side. And so even on the edges, about 1/8 of an inch from the top. And see, I'm just pushing it in the back there. There we go. That's a little high. I'm going to bring that down some. Just a little bit. Too high. There. That looks good. Now we can put it on the front of our card and make sure it opens up it the right way before you put it on. So I'm going to go ahead and put this all around. I use a little bit more than I normally would. Probably don't have to use this much, but I just want to make sure this stays on. Again, make sure it's opening the way you want it to. And we have like a 1/16 of an inch around this one, like that. So we'll put our little fence on next, and it's going to be about a 1/2 inch from the edge of the Just Jade right there, and about a 1/16 of an inch from the bottom. And I think I'll put that on with glue as well. I'm just going to put a dot of glue, and you just kind of squeeze and touch. Don't even try to make it ooze, just get a little dot on there. Like so. And you can see my little tiny dots. It's about a 1/2 inch and then 1/16 of an inch from the bottom, approximately. That's where we want it, and it will stay in place. Got a little bit of glue, so I'm going to wipe that off. Here's our awesome little wheelbarrow. I'm going to put that on with the glue dot, so let me get my glue dots out. I don't know if it'll be 1 or 2. I'm thinking 1. 1 glue dot is pretty strong. So behind here, I'm going to just put 1 glue dot, kind of twist it off, and then you can see there's a mark here. That's where your wheelbarrow axle goes. Covers that up nicely. Now your wheelbarrow is going to sit kind of like this. It's not going to sit straight. It's going to sit kind of like this. And we'll put that on with, I think I'll put that on with glue as well. So a couple of dots here. Mostly just get in the corners, places where it might curl up. So there's my glue, and I'm going to put it at the end here, just like that, maybe a little closer to the edge. There's my wheelbarrow. Wipe my fingers. So next I want to put my thankful on my scalloped oval. I'll do that with glue as well. Just a little bit there in the center. Thankful. I just love this Just Jade. It's such a pretty shade. I think it's much prettier than the Bermuda Bay with this paper. This was the Bermuda Bay, and then this is the Just Jade here. That's going to go right about there. I'll put that on with glue as well. Just about right here. Make sure it's level. That's the good thing about the glue. It will let you move it if you need to. And that looks about right there. Now I'm going to do the inside, and I'm just going to put some Stampin' Seal on the side here. And adhere that to my Just Jade panel. 1/16 of an inch again. and then put that on the inside. Such a pretty card to be sending out. Okay, so there's our inside. Now we're going to do the last part, which is to put this on, and I used mini dimensionals. So let me crack out some mini dimensionals. It's a new pack here, haven't been used yet, so might give me a little trouble here trying to get it off the board. And I'm not sure, we don't need to use a lot. I'm probably going to use more than I need to. I'm using 6. And that's going to go on top of our wheelbarrow. It's going to look like a wheelbarrow with flowers in it. How pretty. Fallish flowers. Okay, so here we go. Just make it look like it's got flowers in the... And the last thing we have to do, let's not forget, is our bow and our Wink of Stella. So we'll go ahead and do our Wink of Stella. So I'm just going to color over everything here. It'll also brighten those colors up. They look kind of faded right now, but the Wink of Stella will brighten them up and make them pop. So I'm doing my flowers first. And now I'll do my leaves. Alrighty, there we go. We got our Wink of Stella. Might put a little extra on my flowers since they're at the center of the focus. And now the bow. So let's drop our bow and kind of find where the natural curve is. When we find it, we're going to bring it around and make 2 loops. Now, this is a small bow, so we want to start small. We don't want to start with big loops. And so I have my little loops here. Now I'm going to, so you can see what I've done. I'm going to take this one and cross it over that one. Those loops might be a little too small. Starting out a little too small because I have to have room. Okay, so that's about where I'm at. So I'm going to cross this over so that now I have a little bit of an X. So the next thing I'm going to do is take this loop and push it through here, and that's going to be a little bit of a trick because it's such a small bow, but it is possible. It is such a small bow, but I'm just going to push that through, grab it, pinch it and grab it and pull. And there you go. Pull on this to make it smaller. And hold it in the center and pull. And then pull the edges of the bow. And there you have your little bow. So pull it tight so it stays. Now I'm going to get my scissors and I'm going to cut my bow straight up along where that the edge of that bow is up at the top. Just like that. And you decide which way you think it will look nice and lay flat. It could be either one, so whatever your preference is, you can play with it a little while. I think I like this one better, so I'm going to put a couple of glue dots on the back side by side. So I have my 1, 2 glue dots right there, and it will hold them, so don't worry about that. It's just going to go right here. Our sweet little bow. I might push up my bow a little bit here, fluff up my sides. With some help from my scissors. There we go. Now our card is finished. So this is project number 1 in the Autumn Goodness class Create Kit. It's your gift from me with a qualifying purchase using my current host code, which you can find out more details on my website, www.carolbcrafts.com. And I hope you'll join me for project number 2. Thanks for watching. Bye now.